Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. I'm here today to deliver a video I kind of promised like a month and a half ago, and it's been a long time since I said that. I think just kind of got away from me. Shit hit the fan in a multitude of ways. So I'm here today to finally give my fourth part of my quarantine vlog series. So this is going to be different obviously than the other ones because I'm no longer in quarantine. I am no longer in a lockdown like that. I am out. I have been for a little while. So it's not a strict vlog. It's going to be me sitting here explaining some things that happened, how things ended up kind of in the last days of everything that went on, and pretty much how I managed to not get COVID when living in a tiny one-bedroom apartment with someone who had COVID. So apologies for such a late delay, and apologies for it not being like a final vlog like I kind of said it was gonna be, but I think this will still be satisfying, hopefully at least. So my COVID quarantine ended up being 24 full days. So we were technically in quarantine or lockdown, whatever you want to call it, for 26 days, but it did not actually count the first 2 days because we did not have positive test results. And that's something else I wanted to clear up really fast is Kevin, my then boyfriend, had COVID. So initially in my vlogs, I was saying that we had been exposed, that was why we were keeping things so quiet, and that's why we were staying in lockdown. But when you are just exposed, you only have to quarantine for 10 days. You do not have to quarantine for the full 24 days. So at the time I wasn't allowed to say anything because his job didn't want everyone to know that he had tested positive because they didn't want a community issue, like the community getting all riled up and coming to his place of work to harass them about it. But he did test positive. So I'm allowed to say that now that we're all good to go and everything has moved on and nobody else at his place of business got sick. But at the time, that was why. So he did test positive. So the way that worked was I had to be in quarantine and in lockdown for the 10 days that he was contagious, which is the 10 days from the first sign of symptoms. So the first time that he had symptoms and had to call in sick to work, that was day 1 for him, and then he was then contagious for a full 10 days after that. But on the 10th day, he was considered like his last day of being contagious. So he was free to go as long as he got medically cleared and a negative COVID test. Now, because I technically could have caught COVID on the 10th day, where his last day of being contagious, I had to stay in lockdown for another 2 weeks after that, because that is the incubation period. So he kind of got to go back to regular life before I did. He got to go back and other things like go to work, he could grocery shop for us, he could do things like that, which was really helpful because, you know, it was better than having to have someone come and do it for us all the time. But he definitely got off a little bit easier, especially since his case wasn't that bad. He was obviously sick and like didn't feel well, but he never ended up in the hospital. He never really ended up with anything too severe symptom-wise. So he was very lucky, and we were very lucky to not have to deal with a really intense version of COVID. I would say he got a pretty mild version, which is great. So on the 10th day, or I guess it was the 11th day of his symptoms, he went to the doctor. He got 2 negative COVID tests, I believe, got cleared by his doctor, was able to go back to work, which was awesome. And then I had to stay in quarantine for 2 more full weeks. So I feel incredibly lucky to not have gotten COVID magically. And obviously it wasn't magic. We worked really, really hard to not get me sick, but it still feels like a miracle because my immune system is not the best. It could honestly be way worse. I am technically like autoimmune, but I have a very mild version of it because of my endometriosis. my body is always like attacking itself and making that problem, which is an autoimmune disorder. But it's not in the same way that something like maybe lupus is, where it completely lowers and destroys your immune system. So while my immune system isn't awesome, it still definitely could have been worse. And it definitely helped me not get sick. I was in the bedroom, like I said before, and he was out here in the living room, and we just stayed apart. If he came into the bedroom, I would leave. Like, we kept it very separate, very spread apart, so that we just never came into contact with each other. We wore face masks in the house. He was wiping down everything after he used it. So if he touched the fridge, he was spraying it down and wiping it off with disinfectant. If he had to go to the bathroom, he would disinfect the toilet, the light switch, and the faucet handle. Just every single thing that we came into contact with that he touched first, he cleaned. We had this little bowl in the fridge where I put eggs in it, like from the carton, so that if he wanted to make eggs, he could without touching the other ones. He had his own milk in the fridge. He had his own bread. I mean, luckily I'm gluten-free, so that kind of helped with that, but we kept everything completely separate. He had his own coffee creamer. He didn't make the coffee, I did, so that he wasn't touching anything. It was just completely separate. We kept everything completely separate, which I think is what ultimately ended up keeping me from getting sick. So by a miracle, the grace of God, whatever you want to call it, I was able to not get sick. In the last few days of my quarantine, it was spent with a lot of anger, to be completely honest. Being stuck in the house for 24 days, like I said, actually closer to 26, was a lot. It took a real toll on me in a way that I didn't think it would. I am someone who, and I think I said this before, because I do have chronic pain issues and chronic illness issues, I kind of assumed that I was in a good position to know how to be in bed, to know how to be stuck inside, and to like keep myself busy. And that was true to an extent. I was able to handle things, at least for a little while, better than Kevin was, just because like I said, I was kind of used to it. I was used to being stuck in one spot a little bit more, but the longer it went on, the longer and the harder every single day got. So I was really lucky in a lot of ways because I had a friend who was able to bring us groceries and anything that I needed on any given day. I was lucky to have a dad who was able to help me with bills and other financial things when I was waiting for my COVID support from the county that I live in. I was really lucky to have a great little support system to kind of help me with the financial aspects of life in that moment. But 2020 was already a real doozy of a year, and I had so many plans for 2020, and then even as those kind of got dashed, I was still working towards certain goals for 2021. And within the 24 days that I was in lockdown, pretty much all of those things slipped away. And that was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Everything that I had in my savings was gone. I had to use that towards other things because I didn't have an active income, so my savings account was totally obliterated, which makes it harder to move and put down a security deposit and do all kinds of things like that. I had been working towards my blog and branding things, and I was still blogging and doing things like that from my lockdown, but it was much harder. It was a lot harder to get photos and do things like that, and I was working towards brand deals, and when you haven't blogged in enough days, like, it doesn't look like it's something that's actually gonna happen. Sorry for the camera shaking. Cat just laid on my tripod. So that also kind of fell a little bit, and just everything I was hoping to accomplish kind of got taken away very quickly. I work a retail job, so working Black Friday and kind of those big ticket days was going to be really key for me for commission. And those were going to be things that I was really banking on, and I wasn't able to do that. I, again, had to work funky hours when I got back, and because I'd been gone, a few people had kind of moved in shifts, and luckily nothing too crazy happened, and I still have my job and my same position, but there was just definitely a shift in how things work. And now we are at the mall that I work at, we are back to our pandemic hours. So during holiday, we were working longer days so that more people had an opportunity to come in. We are now in pandemic hours again, which is much shorter days. So there's fewer hours in the workday for us, which means there's fewer shifts available and fewer hours to give out. So I'm working much less, and having that commission nest egg would have been really nice. So it's been a little bit rocky. Obviously, financial is not the only kind of security, but it's a very important security for someone like me who's young and living on their own and just kind of trying to keep pushing forward in a lot of ways. So of kind of my depression and my anger during all of that time. So thankfully, things are back to normal for us a little bit more now. I'm back at work. Like I said, our hours are shortened, but they're still there. I still have a job. I still have my apartment. I'm able to go back out into the world, which is such a blessing. As someone who's an introvert, I kind of expected to not miss the outside world or interacting with people kind of at all. But even just like not being able to talk to my coworkers when all this was going on was more than I could handle. Like texting people was fun and fine for a while, and like I would FaceTime with friends and that was fine, talk on the phone, whatever. But there was something about not having seen another person face to face in close to 26 days that was really weird, like super weird. And there was even a little bit of anxiety when I finally went back to work of interacting with people, because I hadn't done it in so long. It was like almost a month that I hadn't interacted like face to face with another human being, and so it felt so weird. And it was a little bit like anxiety inducing to go back to a place where I wasn't sure how to always interact. So that was basically me rambling for however long it's been at this point. But I just wanted to give a quick update and really finish out my quarantine vlog by giving you all the details and kind of finishing it up. So I think I'll just end with this and say that you need to wear your mask, because more and more studies are showing that they are helpful and that they do prevent the spread of COVID. You need to wash your hands and disinfect the things around you that you touch often, especially if you work in a workplace with other people, if you live in a home with other people, and especially if you do live in a home with other people and you both work outside the home, or even one of you does. It's important to constantly disinfect and keep things clean. You need to not have large gatherings and parties and hanging out with bunches of people. You cannot be doing this. I do see people, I work with people, which is very helpful, and I do have a friend that I see and interact with, and we both limited to no other interaction with other people, and therefore it's safe. We're not running around at massive parties, and on the off chance that maybe other people are involved, we are outside and wearing masks, and it's just not worth it at this point to have parties or large gatherings. It just isn't. The COVID death toll keeps rising, and it's going to keep rising until we decide to actually take it seriously. And last, if you have the option to get vaccinated, whether it's right now or maybe in a month or 2 months, whenever it is, get vaccinated. There's a lot of ridiculous propaganda out there about how it's bad for you, or it'll make you sick, or it'll give you COVID. And both of my parents have now received the COVID vaccination, and they had some pain at the injection site as well as some fatigue the next couple of days, and that was it. Those were the only side effects that they suffered. So I am here to say that there is no reason for you not to get it. Obviously, I am not a doctor, but I will leave links in the description box down below to make sure you go and feel like you have read up on everything that you need to and feel informed, so that when it is your time to get the vaccine, you feel prepared and empowered to do so. This is what is going to help us move forward as a society and get back to what everybody wants to do, which is normal life, or at least something as close to it as we can get at this point. But getting a vaccine enables you to keep yourself safe and to keep others safe, because not everyone is physically well enough to be vaccinated for whatever reason, so this helps them too. COVID has been shown to not really have a herd immunity abilities, because getting it once doesn't mean you cannot get it again. You most likely end up with an immunity of 4 to 6 months, and that's it. So getting the vaccine is what is going to truly assist us in getting herd immunity and get us back to doing things that we all want to do. It's going to help our economy. It's going to help all of our small businesses and restaurants and things like that continue to thrive. And there is no reason to not do it. Thank you for watching and making it to the end of this video. I've got my next 2 videos are going to be much more fun and not about so much troubling things happening in the world. So go ahead and click the little bell for notifications, so when I post my next video, you'll be able to see it. Give this video a thumbs up, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!